Hi everyone, it's Wrath here. I wanted to make a guide about the gifts that we're going to, definitely not seasonal powers, the gifts that we're going to be getting in Season 11, Diablo 4, and just what decisions you should make and just how to think about them. Because it's a new system. And the interesting thing about the gift, so first of all, Blizzard, if you're watching this, I know that we've memed about seasonal powers a lot. Please don't stop making them. Um, Not every set of seasonal powers you do is fun, um, but it's something. And it definitely adds something. And I miss it and I want it. And I'm sorry, I won't let anyone ever make fun of it again. Just please give us gives back. Powers. The interesting thing about gifts this season is that rather than focus on influencing your offensive capabilities, they focus on your defensive and utility abilities, and they also allow you to choose what you want to farm. To get them, do the seasonal quest, go to Hadriel, unlock the reputation board, and you're going to want to get rank 2 for Duriel's Purified Power, 4 for Endariel, 6 for Asmodan, and 8 for Belial. As you do that, you will unlock additional slots. At the beginning, all these purified slots are going to be unlocked. If you want to get these gifts, you have to go and kill that lesser evil, and they have a chance to drop their a part of their body. Um, so Indariel is going to drop her claws. Asmodan is going to drop his tongue. Duriel is going to drop his horn, and Belial is going to drop his eye. The first time you get this body part, you're going to bring it to Hadriel, and he's going to have an extra option. Right above view reputation and these lines of dialogue, there'll be an option like, hey, I got this eye of Belial. You want it, dog? He's going to be like, oh, totally, I'd love it. You're going to give it to him, and he's never going to have that option again. And it's as simple as that. You're going to have both gifts for that lesser evil, and you can choose which one you want. These choices matter, and it's important to think about them in several parts. The first part is what is the reward structure. The second part is what is the purified power, and the third part is what is the corruption. So early on, when you first start fighting, farming hell tides, you're probably going to want to start with experience globes, because experience, reasons. The Your goal is to get to level 20 as quick as possible. You can technically start Undercity at 15, but level 20, that's when you're going to have the ability to uh, hit your second power spike and really start getting gear, and you're going to really start seeing legendaries. So level 20 is when the game really changes. You're going to want to get there, even if you want to go to 15 and start cranking out Undercities. Experience globes is probably the way to go. That said, gems and runes are dropping like crazy. Um, Something to think about is that with the gems and the runes, you might get the summon wolf companion rune early on. Um, that rune is super game changing. So it may be worth doing Sockables instead from the get go. And then when you have the purified power, you want to think about what activity am I doing. If I'm doing Helltide, I don't care about the reward power for the other three lesser evils. So you're going to just purify whatever buff you want. But if you're doing an activity and you're farming it consistently, you want to think about the reward that you're getting, the maybe the corrupted power, but also like when you purify, it's double reward, and then also think about like what purified buffs do I want. Um, the big thing in Helltide is you want to choose what is going to be your source of defenses. Is it going to be do you have barrier or do you have fortified? You may not. Your class may not have it. Your build may not have it. Um, I was playing a rogue. I had no fortified or barrier for the first 40 to 50 levels. Um, I don't think I may not have had a barrier until max level, and the only reason I had ever had one is because I had a rune word. Um, if you don't have a barrier and you don't have fortified, Belial's minions coming and one-shotting either of those is not a power you're going to care about. Um, so you may want him to come and do that. Um, if potion is your only way of staying alive, um, you may want that. If you're farming Asmodan, by the way, and you have limited sources of healing, you may want your potion to come back every 20 seconds. Early on, Asmodan, even though static version that's always up and that you just summon like crazy, you may want to see him a ton, um, but he's doing so much damage that you're constantly having to run out and not fight him. He doesn't really move from the center of the room. He's going to stay in the same section of the room. So you may want to see your potions more often because you're just not getting a ton of value out of barrier. Or maybe you want a barrier every 20 seconds when you start taking damage. Um, that's a decision for you to make, but that's something you want to think about. So don't worry if you're not farming the pit, don't worry about the reward for the pit. Worry about whether you want to become unstoppable more frequently, or if you want maximum fortify. Um, in general, for as far as Duriel goes, um, the purified experience reward is probably going to be what you want. But as experience dries up, you, or you just need something to boost your power level, you may want to do socketables to get enhanced gems, enhanced runes. I don't know if the socketables were bugged, but they were raining like crazy. Even the non-purified version, I was getting them like crazy, and for some reason, it was always a topaz. I did get diamonds and skulls and other stuff, and I even got a grand ruby on one of my characters. I'm just like, where did that thing come from? But experience is probably going to be what you want to purify, because whatever you purify, you're doubling your reward. When you go and look at Andariel, you have options. Her corrupted powers, I don't know. Essence of Scream is probably going to be a little bit more terrifying, but what I do know is that we are slow this season, and I love movement speed. And if you had to choose movement speed or defenses, it's going to be a tough choice. Just kidding. No, it's not. You're going to pick movement speed and be a Zoomy Glass Cannon every damn time. So, you're probably going to want to purify Essence of Anguish almost all of the time. It's going to double the amount of obos you get. You're going to zoom around. You're going to be a speedy boy. And then you're going to just do Essence of Scream. Now, if you're hardcore, you're still not going to give a shit about all that extra resistance. You're just going to be speedy boy. If it doesn't hit you, it's not going to damage you, and you're going to take that 30% even if you're fighting Lilith. Just kidding. If you're fighting Lilith, no amount of speed will get you to run away from that bitch of terror. You're going to need 20% resistance, and it's still not going to be enough. She is going to slap your booty, and it is going to sting every time. But if you want some salvage material for whatever reason, because you're low on salvage material, you might want to purify Essence of Screams for a few run, load up on your salvage materials, and then just go back to obos, because you're going to be gambling like crazy. So you're probably going to have Essence of Anguish purified for most of the season. Now, late game, main set doesn't matter on an amulet nearly like it has in the past. You may want movement speed on an amulet. I don't recommend tempering it, but hey, you do you, and you live your best life. But if you ever solve your movement speed issues, you're running Perdition, your Sork, your a druid playing rake build and you're just dashing all over the place. However you solve your speed issues, if you solve them and you want more defensives and you don't need that 30% movement speed, you can pull it off and you can go to Essence of Screams. Or if you're doing something difficult, if I'm farming any of the Uber bosses on hardcore, even if I'm like two-shotting them, I'm probably going to want Essence of Screams every time, just for that extra percent 20 resistance. It's also not a terrible idea for a world boss because typically movement speed just doesn't really matter on a world boss, but extra defensives against their grotesque amount of damage, gratuitous amount of damage, not all of which can be avoided, but it also just gives you an extra layer of cushion, and you don't want to down a world boss, especially if it's on hardcore. Um, Looking to Asmodan, you're going to have to decide what you want to do. Um, PTR testing was terrible, and here's why. On the PTR, you have to unlock Infernal Hordes, and prior to unlocking Infernal Hordes, Infernal Compasses are not going to drop for you. So anyone who had activity keys purified whenever they killed the world boss on the PTR, if they hadn't done the quest to unlock Infernal Compasses, you didn't get to see how many Infernal Compasses there was. Now, I did manage to do that on hardcore, and I did experience it a little bit, but I didn't do it on softcore, and through all of my softcore player testing, I just never saw Infernal Compasses. Now, Blizzard typically hides key drop rates on PTR. They just do not sync up with what you can expect on live, and I don't know why that is. But I do know that you can get some Infernal Compasses, but you won't get any of them if it's not unlocked. When we go to live, it'll probably be fine, but don't rely on your PTR testing. Infernal Hordes are probably going to be a strong and valuable option for us, and I suspect Asmodan's stuff can spawn there. I think I saw someone's stuff spawning in there, and I don't remember which, and I'm not going to go look up the footage, but I think Infernal Hordes could be advantageous. At the very least, every time you kill an elite, you get reputation, and there are a ton of elites in Infernal Hordes, and you can actually rig Infernal Hordes to just litter the place with elites or lords and just pop off. So Infernal Hordes, elites, lords, Hellborn, any of those routes are probably going to be quite lucrative. So if you get an Infernal Horde key leveling up, consider using it right away. You will also want to kill Lord Bartok. He is going to be dropping gifts this season so that you can sanctify gear, but he's also going to be dropping stuff so that you can reroll your gear. Once you finish masterworking it, you're going to need Nether Iron or whatever they're calling it. He was usually dropping 2, sometimes more, depends on the difficulty. So farming him for that material, he probably won't drop it before Torment, but look, he's going to have some good stuff if you go to him and you unlock him, so definitely worth doing. Activity keys, or lair boss keys. This is a huge gamble. I probably would recommend lair bosses starting out, just because the sooner you can start doing lair bosses, as soon as you have mats, you're going to be doing lair bosses on Torment 1 or 2, whatever you can handle, whatever you can survive. If it's hardcore, you may want to hold off on Torment 2, especially for the harder bosses like Beast in the Eyes or Zur. They can be absolutely terrifying on Torment 2 on a fresh character. If you're softcore, just go live your best life. But the lair boss keys are going to unlock uniques, and uniques are going to unlock insane player power. And something to think about is that amulets, orange legendary amulets, have been massively nerfed this season. You cannot double temper them. They were one of the best pieces to double temper. You do not have percent main stat on them anymore. If that goes live, then um, using a unique amulet that is not for your build because it has multiple ranks of a very strong passive is going to be a huge power spike. And because you can control the reroll on masterworking for what becomes a greater affix, you just level the amulet up, and then hopefully you have a GA amulet, but even if you don't, you level it up and then you just reroll the GA until you get it on the skill that you want, and that amulet is going to be doing some massive work for a little while. So lair bosses, it's probably going to be your number one gateway into higher tournaments. Once you get your first game-changing unique, you're good to go. Riding Lightbringer, Iris, um, maybe Fist of Fate, any of the boots for a Trap Rogue, the pants for Dance of Knives Rogue, whatever the hell Barbarians use. Once you get Okun, once you get a game-changing unique or two, you're good to go. And there's also some good stuff off of these bosses. Temerity, Sobrand, Tacit, Jens, Rakanoth. There's some really strong defensive items that once you get them, you can survive higher torments and just pop in there. Defenses matter a little bit because it sucks to die all the time. So, from my experience, the meteors on world bosses actually hurt more. So not having to face those was somewhat nice. You miss out on 20% armor and you're vulnerable. The 20% armor might semi cover up the vulnerable. The activity keys will rain from the sky. You will get a billion Nightmare Dungeon keys. You may see an escalation key in there. You might see, you'll definitely see Infernal Horde compasses if you have that unlocked. And you might get insanely good tributes, especially on Torment 4. You might have an extra chance to see a mythic tribute, or definitely one of the rare tributes, which are fantastic for getting the skill amulets, or I don't really recommend using it on armor to try and get skill gloves or whatnot, but you could. But that's what you got. Now, if you're not fighting world bosses, stun chance is probably not that big. Could be wrong. It might be super nice. It is only 10%. I don't know if this is a 10% lucky hit or just a flat 10% every time you do damage. If it is a flat 10% every time you do damage, this could be quite nice. But if the damage is, and if you're blasting pits, maybe in pits, Essence of Hellfire is the way to go. Like, you just trivialize everything with Essence of Hellfire. Quite possibly the case. 20% armor. If you're a super glass cannon, you may want to go this route. If you're doing harder stuff or trying to push into Torment 4, you may just want to do armor. If you're doing Lilith or Belial or any hardcore bosses, definitely the armor. I guess it's going to be personal preference. If you have something that pops off constantly and has tons of instances of damage, Hellfire might actually be viable, but if, like, I don't know, on a pulverized druid, maybe not nearly as good as like a lightning sork who's just popping off. You get a lightning spear and you get a lightning spear. So I would probably purify armor first and then stun chance, unless I'm farming world bosses, and then I'm going to juxtapose these. I don't know if these impact the caches that Asmodan has. They might. So if you're killing non-world boss Asmodan, you have he drops a cache for, and you get to pick, and you can turn five eyes or 5 horns or 5 whatever into a cache, and that cache is going to have a lot of things, including lair boss keys. You probably do get double rewards out of that cache, so it might be worth swapping based on what you're targeting. And if you kill world boss Asmodan, you can turn in 5 Asmodan parts for access to his major stash. So it's definitely worth farming generic Asmodan prior to the world boss, because whether you open a cache or not, he still can drop a body part, and then when you go kill world boss Asmodan, you get just all the loot. Alright, so all that leaves is Belial. Um, Belial has an insane amount of self-sustain, because if you purify Essence of Lies, you fortify 1% of your max life a second. Your fortify build, whether you're a fortify build or not, your character is just going to be at max fortify almost all of the time. This thing is insane. Now, that fortify is consumed at some mysterious rate. It is a very good heal over time, but it's not going to stop you from one shots, and it's only drains so fast. So it's not end all, but it's not nothing. It's definitely something. You're going to feel it. You're going to love it. You're going to want it in addition to, say, life on hit. So this is probably what you're going to be fortifying most of the time. If you have something where it's heavy crowd control, you might swap these. Nothing is really coming to mind where the crowd control is so insane that I want to run Unstoppable or over Fortify. But if you're a build that doesn't Unstoppable very easily, you may, but your survivability is taken care of. I guess maybe a Bloodwave Necromancer would be a really great example where you don't need Fortify, but Unstoppable would be nice. The big thing is the reward structure. You can get an immense amount of gold for completing a pit, or you can get an extra upgrade, a chance for an extra upgrade, and this reward doubles. The more you level this power, the higher the chance of the extra upgrade. And if it's purified, it's like double dipping. You're probably going to be purifying Essence of Lies 90% of the time, and only when you finish leveling your glyphs are you gonna remove this. If you ever run into some gold issues and you don't want to farm gold from another source, you may decide to just purify Essence of Shadows, and now you're just getting double gold. But whether your Essence of Shadows is purified or not, you're going to get extra gold whenever you run a pit. So pits are still going to suck. They're going to be awful, but they're not going to be as awful as they were before. Just kidding. They're still going to be horrendously painful, but you're also earning an extra reward chance, so hopefully they're not that bad. Lastly, we don't know what the seasonal gifts are, but it looks like the first one is, surprise, surprise, reputation. The second one, something to do with blacksmithing. I suspect masterworking is going to give us an extra upgrade. They said masterworking currently only does 1 to 3, but when they did the campfire, they said, oh, masterworking, you're going to have a chance to increase an item times 3 or times 5. Well, I think that's going to come with the seasonal blessing. That's what this thing is. This is Belial's head. I could only guess what the heck is going to go on with this blessing. This one is a true whispers. This is probably just going to be like, hey, chance for a really good cachet. And then this, it looks like we're going to be getting an additional source of an extra upgrade whenever we run pits. Thank God, because leveling glyphs sucks so bad. I hope other areas of the game are a better source of experience farm, but it looks like we're going to be leveling our glyphs faster than normal. And if that's the case, and I'm going to be honest, you probably will always want to level your glyphs over gold, but I could be wrong. But it's nice that we have options. So that's the gift system. As a brief look at the seasonal system, just to give you an idea of how to navigate and how to think about it. If you're not running um, the pit, you can swap these for what you want or for what you need. Um, if you're someone who loves chugging potions, um, you may want a potion every 20 seconds, especially for the world boss. It's super helpful when fighting Asmodan, especially if starting out Asmodan is super difficult and you're just going through potions like crazy, and um, you're waiting for your potion to come back up. This might be nice. But if that's not the case, you may want to just purify and get a maximum barrier whenever you become injured. And so it's like, oh, I took a hit, I became injured. Well, the odds that you're going to take additional damage after you become injured are up there, especially with all the dot mechanics in the game. So a barrier after becoming injured every 20 seconds, a very nice source of damage mitigation. Um, but this is putting your survivability into your own hands. Only and but so it's something to think about. Just because a guide says, "Hey, do this gift or that gift," you have so much more freedom with what gifts you decide to purify and why you decide to purify them in the system. Don't feel like you're pigeonholed whatsoever. And if use this as a way to farm a resource you care about. It doesn't have to be just about the purified power or just about removing the corruption. It could be about, again, this is a risk versus reward system. It could be, I need this reward. I'm going to target farm this reward, and this is how I'm going to do it. So there you go with the gifts. Um, it's kind of cool that they've created this system. I wish it had more to it because I have always liked the seasonal power system. Even though people meme on it, I'm like, okay, but it's a recipe that works. So I'm kind of sad that sad that Blizzard. First of all, this isn't seasonal gifts. It's seasonal powers. It's the same damn thing. It's the same damn thing. Second of all, don't be ashamed about that. You didn't have to solve the seasonal power issue just because everybody was crying about it. Um, adding adding something extra to the seasons is also super nice. Um, the Heroic gems, the Heroic gem power, the Heroic seasonal power season was terrible. Those powers were super dumb. Um, the gems were super cool. Do that again. Um, the seasonal boss power. I'm never gonna get tired of saying this. I really wish that they had left in the capability to build characters around the powers and not powers around the characters. Um, and the problem, and like Blizzard doesn't actually listen to the feedback because the only reason people cared about that season is not if you want to be a summon necromancer, maybe you don't want to build around the Belial Eyes corruption power. Maybe you don't want to build around the Endarial Firebeam. Maybe you just want to build a necromancer and have the boss powers build around that. Um, that's fine. Bring the individual builds up to the level of the boss power builds and just have it all included in the season. Um, we did have Spiritborns had a Varshan seasonal power strat that was a glitch, but they could just left it in. I have wanted to try that, and they hot fixed it 3 or 4 weeks into the season. And it's like, why? Just don't hot fix the build. Bring the rest of the Spiritborn builds up to that level, so I have a choice and decision. I was so looking forward to doing a Wandering Death, Dance and Knives Rogue Beam build. I had the music picked out. I had different strategies for the different types of builds I was going to do. And then I got into the season and Blizzard had nerfed the boss power. Everything about the boss power is way too much. Um, and what's ironic is they nerfed Avarice, and nerfing Avarice solved most of the builds. And they didn't stop there. They nerfed absolutely everything, which was kind of heartbreaking. Um, so hopefully in season 12 we get seasonal powers, and you can choose whether to focus on the seasonal powers or focus on your individual build and let either one play around you. It would have been so cool to have a Belial I-Beam Rogue or a Belial I-Beam Necromancer, um, or an Indarial Fire Mage. And I think that was season 8. I enjoyed the, the PTR 10 times more than I enjoyed that season. Anyhow, there you go. I hope this helps you out navigate the gift system. Um, if you appreciated this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. See you in the next season.